will be of knowledge and maybe affect your life. And I'm glad you're here today, and it's my pleasure to moderate this session here. I would say welcome, and thank you for being here. Doche, wingin layo, how. How pinon? How pinon? Are you in good health?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, how pinon? How? I was born in China. I was born in Jamaica. We have a few Jamaican here of Chinese heritage who is interested in this subject as well because they're Chinese. Anyway, we shall start now. My name is Albert Lim Xu, and I am the moderator for this session. Before we settle in and begin, I am asked by the presenter for this session to poll the audience of the following question. Incidentally, this was given to me by the gentleman to ask you certain questions which will affect his lecture. Did you know that India had fought a war in the past with India?
No, India and China fought a war.
India, yeah.
India and China fought a war.
Okay. Did anyone know that India and China fought a war?
In the past.
In the past, okay.
In the border war.
Yes. Second question. Did anyone know that Chinese were interned in a concentration camp in India? Okay. AIDCI stands for the Association of India Dioli Camp Internees, 1962. This is not a non-profit. This is a non-profit, not-for-profit organization started in 1920 by the group of ex-internees from the 1962 Sino-Indian War. Today presenter are Xing Leng, Secretary of AIDI, Yen Xing Wong, President of ADCI. Okay, gentlemen, a round of applause for them. Vincent Liu of Board of Directors. Thank you. You are acknowledged the people who is involved in regards and been in internment in India during the war at that time. So without further ado, I'll ask you to continue with whatever you have to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert, for your nice introduction. Because what happened is that we have about 50 and 70% of the people who already know about the war to a certain degree. We are going to go a little bit higher up as well, and then go into detail about when he actually going to present. So the agenda for today, we're going to run down. I'm going to do the introduction for the AIDCI, and then next is Yin Seng Wong is going to speak in Hakka about his experience in the camp, and then we go. I have to translate it in English because not everybody knows Hakka, so I'm going to translate it. And then next is Vincent Liu, who his dad was in the concentration camp. He was outside of the camp, so he's going to give him, his perspective about how his feeling is looking from the outside in. And then afterwards, I'll just introduce into the comparison of the Japanese and the Japanese internment camp relative to this one, and then go into a small video to give you an overview of what's going on. It's actually give you a good picture of where we relate things up, and then we'll conclude after that with a question if there's any. Okay, so we go right into the AIDCI, which Albert already mentioned, is a non-for-profit organization. It was founded by a lot of the ex-internees, and about close to 100 of them are actually in Toronto. So, historical background behind the AIDCI, as we mentioned, it was actually related to the October 1962 war, the border war, Sino-Indian War, that after the war, just about the time, October and November timeframe, the actual, about 3,000 of those Chinese, Indian, actually a lot of them are actually born in India. they were actually carted into the train and then shipped all the way to Rajasthan. So from the eastern side of the border, they were actually shipped all the way to the western side of the border towards Pakistan. Okay. So the Chinese Indian were accused of being a spy or communist or that kind of and they were never charged and they were released without any charge as well. For between some of them stayed for 6 months to 5 years. And the only internment camp lasted about approximately 5 years, as I mentioned. There was actually greater impact beyond the 5 years that we were just talking about, because it will relate to the fact that a lot of the Chinese migration happens around after the war because of what happened. So you'll see that what happened is that a lot of them have actually migrated to Canada, United States, Europe, Austria, Australia, and so on in the United States. We have some interns from the United States as well. So that is what has happened with the war that have actually devastated the whole community in India. So this is just a map of what the conflict was about. It was always somewhere around Arunachal Pradesh that the Indian claim, and it's also South Tibet for China, and it's also on the northeastern part of it. Western part of it on the Kashmir area. It's the Achin area, and along that border with anything related to the Red Ocean, and it's still in dispute as of today. We won't go into deep into the conflict. We're going to be concentrating more on the internments. And this is a camp that they stayed at in Rajasthan, the Deoli in Rajasthan, which is actually in Rajasthan. So this is what we do as an organization. We hold annual reunion meetings on a yearly basis, and this year happens to be on September 18. And we have basically Dr. Kilo was one of our speakers on one of the annual event in 2014, September 13. And we do actually about 6 board meetings, 7 depending on the situations. We also a number of our basically ex-internees as well as have written books on the Deoli camp. And there's a number of articles right now starting to come up because of the 50th anniversary that happened just in 2012 right now. So we have participated in 2012 on the Hakka conference, and we have different speakers that have actually done the speech as well. One of them was Riley, and she should be showing up. She was in another meeting right now. We did the 50th anniversary. It was about 300 plus, around 300 families, ex-internees attended the meeting. It was a big event. We actually had it in the Commander Park Recreational Center, which was can hold about 500. We were jammed full, basically. And it's about 50 ex-internees that attended. We're close to 100. 50% showed up, which was a good show. And in just last year in October, there was a lot of things. We have it on my binder or different things we do. I'll just give you the highlights on some of them. So in October 2014, a group of ex-internees, Michael was one of them. Stephen was supposed to show up today because of the relative. He didn't show up. He was also back went to India last year in October 2015, along with Joy Ma, and also Jean Marsh. That was he wrote a book. She wrote a book, Nehru, during time in Nehru. So they were actually sort of like about five of them went back to Delhi and New Delhi to commemorate the Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. He was basically the God, I would say, God of peace. If you really read about history about Mahatma Gandhi, so we want to actually tailor to his type of peaceful way that we're going to go about in terms of reconciling the ex-internees with the Indian government or whatever it is, what happened in the past. Just want to be peaceful and solve this thing once and for all. Basically have a formal apology. So we planted about 4 Deoli trees in the Milliken Park, which is at Steeles and McCowan. So we have 4 trees right now up. We just planted about last year. So our mission statement is pretty simple. One is to educate the public, and the other one is to have a formal apology from the Indian government. And we're not looking for, like big things or whatever, just to make sure the future event does not happen again. Because this is happening all over the world with a lot of minority being suppressed, and that has happened. And it's not only in India, there's, you can take example all over the world. But I think what happened is that this is one of those events that is very tragic in nature, but at the same time, we want to make sure that people know about it because it's very minorities. If you look at 1.2 billion people in India, 3,000 is, you can't even count the percentage down the line, right? So in India, the Chinese are basically have no status or basically nobody because of the population size impact. So there's no political voice or economic voice, right? Okay, we're gonna stop right here. I'm gonna ask Yinsen to come up and he's gonna do his Hakka part of it, which is related to the internal camp. And I will translate it into the English for you guys. So we're not gonna translate it one sentence by sentence, which is gonna take forever. So we're gonna let him read it through, and I'm gonna do my part.
欢迎城市属参加2016年世界客家研讨会，今年喺約 University 以下。1962年中英邊界衝突，印度政府將提出印度3胎出生嘅印度一個繁衍家庭到一個單身男人口，用火車作為英國時代嘅10周年表里和沙漠嘅。8年7日嘅火車行程有啲差嘛，離一台過人嘅地方，今年做翻工開始啦，這個時候就開始啦，火車都談了我哋10分炒差3000塊，佢哋數都嗌東西本嚟嘅播音機，前喊口號，印度萬歲，中國人坤地中國，10條莊頭前。上嘅火車見好飛，咱有好乜嘢差不多窗外觀出門口吃飽，跑出太是200多個人，係咪？乘坐費用確實是累想，印度軍人對死嘅點頭話，你夾啊離開一台，否則會開槍，係咪？否則會開槍。當時啊，火車我就夾嘅有一多乜嘢是啊，下來了天然嘅火車，係咪？天然嘅火車到10周年以後啊，有一多東西都蠻做真得蠻有錢，佢用在裝潢啊，放喺IT方面啊，無論嘅，呢度嘅用乜嘢馬順做嘅民眾要 IT 方面可能有一個太細嘅嘛通，係咪？但係太子嘅數可以所以班嘅有年輕啩。傻哥，就通都會爬出來啊！家人小片都用呢都唔敢去小片，而明個雙腳踏啊面從大出去，呢有傻哥表啊咩？叫我呢以後話安頓好睇住下家庭哦，係咪哦？以後款嘅 ABCD 唔理人係咪？1963年，印度女政府將14到10周年參觀。隨行有印度著名嘅包沙記者，讓我嘅高官及 security 嘅，唔嘅永遠啱嘅代表全部向內政府講話，希望政府早日釋放大家狀，佢將光明代表成為高secretary，話為內政府開始家庭係咪？當呢個事情就人冇結果，讓中大家受到中國風俗是送門難流門嘅。你暴力的，每個有約乜嘢水漫係咪關係呢？反正人女衣服國際風俗是也有理論，女夾有加拿大嘅一些東西係咪？兼加拿大咱有家對嘅也有青年衫褲，所以咧加拿大其實可能前次一個量嘅依個污染。有印度風俗是的狀告， 那巴西啊，西中人而家呢本乜嘢兩陣人數入嚟咧，多少家庭都西中人款數啊，一生呢唔知有冇咁樣機會有人發別，失去自由嘅無奈咯。1962年唔知我哋Hakka7個年得到釋放自幾個家庭啊也有人，還有是30年左右。有人送，有人搞每個家庭代表一個禮拜嘅使用費，只能夠買數本便宜嘅食嘅東西，每年搶到一半嘅錢啊！一批年後再重新做實驗，用半年半到過年咧，叫市民將安尼搞，我寫落去每條叫安尼一家嘅住啊，每年我先每條叫報道，安尼點住嘅皮啊、燒啊，含那個本老蟲眼嘅咧。損失數據太，但係政府要將下咧，好似科廠會，但辦嘅時候啊，辦嘅時候啊，損失了很多東西，但係以後啊，就我政府嘅那啲研發，那3年嘅物資啊，能搞出來，係咪？但係我哋出現話，我哋唔少嘅東西，但係政府話你一天愛那啲縮咗你嘅東西，你嘅肆意搶嘅法案，我哋政府責任已經簽咧，係咪？但係呢個遺留啊、印度歷史嘅污染啊，希望後在還冇做太遠嘅印度兩方面啊，我勇敢承認為自己討厭，將嘅3000嘅難有到所數年嘅投票，係咪？多謝陳志數俾你來。Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to translate his Hakka speech just now. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2016 Toronto Hakka Conference at York University Workshop. In 1962, the Sino-Indian border war, there were 3 to 4 generations of Chinese born in India. There were 3,000 Chinese detained, included women and infants that were incarcerated to the Deoli internment camp, Rajasthan. The journey took 8 days and 7 nights, and there is a train station where the military was cooking the food for the internees. There were many Indians crowd that headed towards the train station as the Indian was carrying staffs, iron rod, and related weapons, and having a slogan of "Long live India" and Chinese go home. The military personnel was advised to leave the train station right away. As we were leaving, the crowd was throwing stones at the train along the way. We did not understand why the Indian knew that the Chinese were in the train. But later on, we found out the train was painted with enemy train, and actually there was an article that actually have it with a letter on the thing. We have actually articles on it as well. When we arrived at Deoli camp, Rajasthan, the living condition was horrible and the camp was not ready for living. The military personnel set up the tent for many families to sleep outside. The bed was made of coconut husk. There were numbers of holes on the ground with snakes inside. When the snakes came out, a lot of people were screaming, so everyone was afraid to go to the washroom at night. Many days later, the internees was organized into A, B, C, D, and E camp that we saw actually on the pictures. There's actually a section of it. In June 9, 1963, the Union Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri and many high general and security personnel accompanied him to the Deoli internment camp. Each of the camp leaders met the Union Minister to request for release for all internees from the Deoli camp. The Union Minister promised to take the internees' proposal to Parliament, but nothing transpired for many internees. The Chinese Red Cross provided presents to every family of food, clothing, towels, cigarettes, toothbrushes, and medication. The International Red Cross also came by and provided presents for children, clothing, as well as, and that was actually transferred through the Indian Red Cross. My dad died at the Deoli camp, and many of the families were separated with a close relative as well. A number of people have lost their mind, or actually gone crazy, some of them. So with so many years of living in the Deoli camp, most serious matter is the loss of freedom for many of them. In May 10, 1963, my families of 7 were released from the internment camp, but we entered with 8 of us, as we lost our dad inside. Further 30 more Chinese were released together. The Indian government gave $1.50 rupees per day to each family for a 7-day trip back home to Shillong. The entire trip was difficult and it was not enough to take care of daily meals. Back in Shillong, at the Foreign Registry Office, we had to visit the police station every day to ensure that we remain in town. My family's stores and product inside the shop were moved to a warehouse by the Indian government when we were taken to Dioli camp. We suffered huge losses as leather products were destroyed by rats from almost 3 years at the warehouse. The enemy property inspector told us to remove the goods and pay for the warehouse cost, the high cost of the warehouse for 3 years. So we told the enemy property inspectors that we don't want any of the goods. They advised that we had to take them back. Once we sign the document, the Indian government will have no responsibility on the property. As a great nation like India, there has been no acknowledgement of this internment camp of Chinese in the Dioli camp by the Indian government, and no apology or compensation provided to the 3,000 internees that were detained in 1962. This particular event has remained in the Indian government dark history. I hope that the Indian leadership will be courageous enough to gain respect from the world and apologize to the Chinese internees of the Dioli internment camp of 1962. Thank you. Before I will actually call up Vincent Liao to say his perspective on it, I'm just going to have some pictures related to the camp. Okay, anyway, so this is like a barbed wire. You see that, if you ever seen those concentration camps, they have barbed wire on the fence level. So very similar to it. So we'll just, and then this is something like, see the roof along the way, some of the things, and the living condition is like, this was actually taken by one of the ex-internees that went back in 2010, but he was not able to, sorry.
Can I suggest that you maybe turn out some of the lights because it's actually difficult to
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is it's going to be quick, like we're trying to keep it low, like quick. So these are some of the camp pictures we have. And then what happened is that we celebrated the 50th anniversary, and these are the, we had a huge crowd, as you can see. So I will flip it through some of the pictures, and we have about 50 internees that was actually showed up, and some of them are really old, and we have the board of directors here. And we have people sign a document. And we were here in 2012 for the Toronto Hakka conference as well. So this is some of the board meeting that we took some the international Hakka conference, the board meeting, and then Dr. Kivlo was in 2014 as a ski speaker. So we have some, I'm just going to flip through, it's not a lot of pictures, we have about 25 of them. So this was the pictures from 2 years ago, and they're almost done. And then this is last year. Last year we do the annual thing, we have some entertainment as well. Few entertainments, and then these are the internees, and we have a 92 years old, that was actually his mom, that went to the camp as well. And he actually met her friends in the thing, and it was like just talking and having a lot of fun. And the other one was 95 years old. So it was a great So these are some of the things that we do, and then these are all the ex-internees that annually shows up, and all the families members and so on. So that's pretty much one other thing. We're going to ask Vincent Liao to come up and then.
Could you flip on the light when you over there, please?
Yeah, we're going to just.
For Vincent. Vincent, you like to use the mic? Get over here.
Yeah,
No,
we're going to use the mic.
You have to use the mic because
We're going to have to use
just to bring it to your attention, we are being recorded and
Okay.
it goes from the mic into the recorder, into the video there. So
Okay.
it's necessary to use the mic, okay? Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, friends and distinguished guests, my name is Vincent Liu. I'm the son of the late Mr. Liu Chung Shen, who was arrested and imprisoned by the Indian government at the Diori concentration camp for 5 years during the China-India border war that started in 1962. My late father was a prominent Chinese businessman. He had no affiliation or political ties to the mainland Chinese government at that time. He was arrested because of his ethnic background and falsely accused as a Chinese communist supporter. My late father's arrest in 1962 had a huge impact towards our family, both financially and emotionally. As a result of his arrest, which took away the breadwinner of the family, my mother could not afford to pay our tuition fees and other living expenses. I and my siblings had to stop schooling in order to help my mother work, put food on the table, and roof over our head. The emotional impact was so huge that we had separated from my father when we needed him the most while we were growing up. I was young, I felt so desperate and despair that I decided to leave India for Hong Kong in 1966 to start a new life, hoping to support my family from overseas. My late father was finally released from the Diori concentration camp in 1967, and the Indian government dropped all charges against him without an official apology for his wrongful imprisonment from 1962 to 67. I am still angry at the wrongful arrest of my late father. It created a substantial grief and hardship for my family for over 5 years. The Indian government did not acknowledge nor provide a formal apology to this date. I found the Association of the Diori Internment Camp 1960 group through a friend and got myself involved with this case that's dear to my heart. From my own experience, I believe no one should ever have to go through for what I did experience in my life, and hoping this type of human suffering should never happen again. This is a small Chinese minority group in India for internees who were prosecuted wrongfully in 1962 because they did not have a voice to speak up. And finally, today I'm urging all AIDCN members and survivors continue to support and petition for a formal apology and compensation for our duress and suffering from the Indian government. Thank you all for your attention.
Okay, I'm just going to go down a little bit on the. One second. Just going to go down to my slide. Okay, so we're going to just see a small, about 50 minutes video about the parallel between the Japanese and what happened to the internment camp in India. So this documentary is pretty much sum up the voices of the ex-internees and who were detained. They spoke from the heart about the anguish and the humiliation that they went through. And also the film touches on the parallel between the Japanese and the American, as as well as the American, acknowledgement and apology, which happened in 1988 by Ronald Reagan. And the films actually urges a similar resolution for Indian Chinese community of the 1962 Deoli internment camp incident. So I'm going to just start the video.
Nice.
Oh, okay, that's this one.
बाहर मौसम खराब है क्यों ना रजाई ओढ़ के सोया जाए
647-296-191 टोरंटो में जो है वो नेथन फिलिप्स स्क्वायर पे है 8 बजे से लेके और शुरू हो चुका है ऑलरेडी। अगर आप ब्रैम्पटन में हैं तो ब्रैम्पटन डाउनटाउन में आपके लिए फायरवर्क का इंतजाम किया गया है।
We were lucky. Many of the other family never got anything back.
So my father, I think, imparted a lot of his humor to us. And then married to this guy, I had to overcome all my anger.
लंबा रात्रि सुबह का महीना इंतजार बड़ी तकलीफ है।
To me, what he remembers the most of his time there in the confinement is the fact that every week family members were allowed to come and eat and bring some food, some kind of comfort.
Calcutta, 1943, my grandfather came to India and lived in Calcutta, Chinatown, I think in 1926. Those days, they come here not for the purpose of settle in India. They come here to do some business, earn some money, and by the end of the year, they will go back to China to celebrate the Chinese New Year with the family.
I was born in Kalimpong in 1932, and I grew up in a small town, which was very nice at that time. From Tibet, wool comes, butter comes, and from India, we used to send all this flour, sugar, woolen cloth. Actually, we were not afraid, because we said, well, the war is far away, and we didn't indulge in any political thing, and we were just, businessmen.
So I guess that basically, Nikki was doing her senior thesis in college, and she was taking an oral history class, and then became very interested in oral history, and then in our own personal history. And so she called me and said that she was thinking of doing a paper, her senior paper thesis on the internment camp, and would I mind if she interviewed me? And I think that's how it all started. So we decided to go to Death Valley. We thought we'd be away from telephones and people interrupting, They said, we have you for 5 days, you can ask me anything you want.
When the border war broke out between India and China in 1962, in October, all of our family was taken to the concentration camp. My father pleading with the police officer that let the children stay back, they are doing their schooling and all very vital time and all that. The police officer said, sorry, we have to obey the order. The arrest warrant is for the whole family.
25th of January 1963, that day was our Chinese New Year. I remember after going to prayer, we came back home and saw there were about 8 policemen, security men with a jeep. They told us to get ready and take whatever, a little bit of clothes, but don't take more than 500 rupees, leave everything behind. So we were interned on that day.
So it was mom, it was dad, my brothers who were 11 and 8 at the time, and then myself. But I was not born. So that was a day, it has been imprinted indelibly in my mother's head. You know, it was Chinese New Year, it was the day when things are supposed to be good and lucky and fortunate and a new start. But this is definitely not the new start we wanted.
So without telling us anything, they bundled us to Rajasthan.
That is the ultimate internment camp for most of the Calcutta Chinese.
When I was 14 years old, my twin sister and I was there for 2.5 years with my parents. We have no freedom.
But finally we were given food to eat. We didn't know where to put it. And so somebody had found a cover of a tin, and he had eaten his bed, his gruel, so he said, here. So we had to use that. He had to cover him.
When we were in the camp, my father was so sick. He was taken to the hospital more than a month. After that, he died there. The hospital took his 2 eyes out.
पूरा बॉडी का यानी कि गर्मी से एकदम यानी पानी गलते गया, बहुत सा जगह ऐसा काटा उठा, जैसे गलती से इधर से ऑपरेशन नहीं ऑपरेशन इधर वो हालत अभी भी याद होने से हम बहुत दुखी आता है कि दुनिया में ऐसी बदनसीब फैमिली को ऐसे मिल रहे हैं.
And essentially our family kind of broke apart. We never was a family again. Looking back, I've been wondering why my granddaughter was taken. She was probably one of the few people left in China who had bound feet. You know, and literally the feet were probably no bigger than my fist. And so she couldn't walk very far. And so looking back, why did they take an old lady like that? I could never understand that. And the other thing was when my brother and I were released, I never really thought about it until recently how She was released after about 8 months or 6 months after we were gone. Who took her, from the camp back to Calcutta? How did she go? I have no idea, and I don't know who to ask.
I discovered that I was pregnant. I even told the doctor to have abortion, and the doctor refused to give me abortion. So, of course, luckily I didn't have it. I had joy.
Definitely got the sense that she was very well looked after by a doctor, a female doctor.
So when we went to the hospital, the nurse was there. I mean, they treated me very kindly, that I don't have any complaint.
I remember one of my friends, grandfather and grandmother got deported by pushing through the Sikkim border. Half of them have gone back to China by the repatriation ship. And they never meet again.
When we reached Howrah, the manfolk was taken away from us. And it was in July the 1st, it was raining. And I said, where will I go with the 3 kids and not a pie in my pocket? Because the money has to be with the head of the family. And I had nobody to come to receive me.
Release होने के बाद तो हमारा पूरा फैमिली शिलोंग में गया। शिलोंग गया होने का टाइम भी बहुत सा आदमी से पैसा उधार लेने हुआ। पैसा उधार लेने टाइम भी बहुत तकलीफ हुआ क्योंकि हर एक जान पहचान आदमी वो भी राजस्थान देवली कैम्प में गया तो वो लोग खुद ही तकलीफ है।
Total population in 1962 in Chinatown itself is around 30,000. After this 1962 incident, now there's hardly 2,000 Chinese left in all over India.
When the ladies asked the Calcutta, we still don't have any freedom of the movement, as if we're still living inside the prison.
कनाडा में आने के बाद एक चीज़ है ना जो कि पैसा से और कुछ चीज़ से नहीं मिल सकता। मेरा दिल में ना फ्रीडम महसूस हुआ ना कि कभी भी ऐसा महसूस नहीं हुआ जब से राजस्थान कैम्प में जाने के बाद।
And what happened to my husband? Thought so much of India. I said, no, why should I go to a country which I don't even know? I was born in India and I work in India all my life. I don't want to change. That's what he said. I was crying because I was thinking, when will we be able to go away? So,
to the Indian government, he never really had any kind of revenge, or he didn't have any kind of, there was no bad feelings towards the Indian government at all. To him, he remembers the most from his time there in the confinement is the fact that every week, family members were allowed to come and meet him, family members were allowed to bring some food, some kind of comfort when he was there. I think that's what he remembers the most.
How do we say? My emotions kind of dried up. I was never able to cry for almost 40 years. Nothing moved me. Sad stories, movies, saying goodbye to people, nothing.
Didn't witness her crying growing up at all, and suddenly there's this floodgate just opened, and there was something that kind of took over, this need to just share, and seeing her work on her book, go through that process, seemed really therapeutic.
So now I can't stop crying. I cry when I talk about it. And now I talk to everybody about it. I ask anybody, have you heard about the Chinese internment in India? You know, I'm not afraid anymore.
Or what I observed in your telling your story and talking, being more open about your past or this part of your past is just an embracing of your entire identity.
I didn't know who I was. I wasn't Chinese, I wasn't Indian, I was American, and yet, you know, I was confused. And so I think Nikki was the one that kind of put it all together when she wrote the forward. And it was exactly, in the end, how I feel. He put it much better than I did. Remember how you said?
Ironically, my dad never lost his love for India. He loves everything about the country, about the people, about his memories. He was born there. He has hypertension, but he eats jalebis, he eats samosas. When he is here in the Bay Area, he listens to Oakland's Hindi station, and he remembers everything from his days as a child in the area where he grew up.
रात को खाना खाने के बाद हमेशा हम लोग दोस्त ने एक चारपाई लेके बग वालों के एकदम नजदीक में बैठ जाता है। वो बग वालों बाहर एक थिएटर है, थिएटर में जो क्या गाना होता है, क्या क्या वो लोग का डायलेक्ट चल रहा है, एकदम क्लियर से सुनने मिलता है। बस ऐसी अनन्य डेली ऐसी।
If you have two groups of people, if you have say a big group of Chinese and a big group of Indians, I sort of feel more comfortable in the Indian group.
दिल में ऐसा बार बार महसूस होता है ना, जैसे कि अंधेरी लंबी रात में कब सुबह आएगा मालूम नहीं है, ऐसी दिल में महसूस होता है। इतना लंबा लंबा रात है, सुबह कब आएगा, इंतजार बड़ी तकलीफ है।